This is the John Curley Show
on News Talk 97.3.
Cairo FM.
Welcome back over to the John Curley Show. Thanks so much for tuning in. The news I heard yesterday around 4:30 in the afternoon, Yvonne over at King TV called me and said, have you heard? Because Como is telling everybody that J.P. Patches has passed away. And I wasn't able to confirm it, so I got Felix Pennell, my buddy, my historian, writer, and producer, who I've known since the Museum of History and Industry, when Evening Magazine used to be on the air. Is it still on the air?
I haven't checked, is it?
I don't know. And so I wrote you, Felix, and you wrote me back, and you said, my God, I hope it is not true. I spoke to him on Tuesday. I wouldn't be surprised. He seems very, very sick.
Yeah.
With the passing of J.P. Patches, known as JP, and also to friends who was Chris Wheatus for so many years. You talked to Chris, you talked to JP on Tuesday, is that right?
No, actually, it was a couple weeks ago I talked to him, had a short conversation, then I was out of town for a while, and I had some other stuff I was doing, and I called him on Tuesday. He wasn't there, and I said I would call back. I didn't call back. He didn't call me back, and so I did talk to him about a month ago, and he sounded very, very ill, but I talked to him after that, and he sounded better, but obviously he had a terminal illness, and it was reaching its end, and so we knew this day was going to come, but I sure wasn't prepared for it.
Yeah. Hey, Felix, what does this passing mean, and what is the legacy of? And this seems so silly on the surface if somebody were just tuning in and not from this area. They're like, "Wait, you guys are talking about a guy that dressed up like a clown and was on television?"
Oh,
really?
yeah. And I've tried to explain this to either friends from out of town or my some in-laws I have from out of town, and it's just they kind of look at me and they scratch their head because the reality is every city, every region in the United States, starting back in the 1950s, had a TV clown. But only Seattle had J.P. Patches. And J.P. transcended the medium. I mean, because you knew him personally. He was smart. He was funny, fun to work with.
Yeah.
He was curious about stuff. He knew what was going on in current events. You could talk to him about anything.
Yeah.
And so he brought this incredibly sharp mind to these daily live programs, and they were hysterical, and they were topical. They were funny for kids, just on a basic level. But the grown-ups, there was sort of, I would call it sort of gentle double entendre in there. He wasn't doing like anything blue or anything dirty, but there was sort of these knowing kind of winks at the adult audience as well. And so it worked for kids, it worked for grown-ups.
Now, he did the show in, I think, Minnesota or something like that, or somewhere in the Midwest.
Yeah, the Twin Cities. Yeah.
Twin Cities. I think they either fired him or he left. He came here to Seattle. So he had a history, but Gertrude, I understand, who was his partner in this whole mix, was actually was the floor director or somebody that was running cameras?
I think he was just some kind of a tech doing like something in the background. And one day, JP had this character he would pretend to talk to on the phone, this phone operator named Gertrude. And say, "Oh, so Gertrude, it's JP here. What's going on?" And one day, Newman just called back with this high-pitched voice saying like, "Oh, it's Julius." And right away the character was born, and Newman became this performer who did about a dozen different roles, all very different, all really memorable, all really intense. It's just, it's rare that you had that much talent on a local show. That's why JP was memorable, because people cared about him. I think he was more popular, more beloved after he went off the air than he was when he was on the air.
How do you explain that, Felix?
I don't know if you can really explain that other than the fact that, Chris is naturally just really talented and very charismatic, and really he loved what he was doing. He cared about everybody. It wasn't fake. There's no Jekyll and Hyde thing. If you met Chris in person and spent any time with him, you realize, God, the clown thing on TV, that's just the surface.
Yeah.
Below it, it's all real. And then, I don't know, the fact that his career was timed so well to the rise of local television in the 50s and 60s, and then to the demise of the kind of local programming that his show epitomized, when that went away, there was no place for him to go, right?
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, because maybe that baby boomer nostalgia wave, maybe just Chris's amazing amount of talent, he was kind of rediscovered back in the late 80s and early 90s and started doing all these personal appearances.
Yeah, I had him for my mother-in-law turned, I think might have been 50. Yeah. And she's a huge J.P. Patches fan. I wanted to get her on the air and talk to her about it, but I was afraid she'd start crying.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, JP, Chris, can you do a, yeah, sure. Where do you need? I said, they're all going to be down at Anthony's, like 25 women and everything. Oh, yeah, sure. So he shows up, got the whole makeup on and everything. $500 he charged.
Is that a good deal, or what do you think?
I don't know. I was shocked. I was like, okay, and that'll be how much? $500. I was like, $500. Sure. And apparently it was his act. I'm not saying was, but it was more than a double entendre on some of the stuff. But
well, yeah, when it's not on TV. I mean, there's no
Right.
FCC around. I'm not saying, yeah.
Right, the ladies loved him for it.
Yeah, he was brilliant, just a brilliant entertainer. He would have succeeded in any medium if he'd been on network radio. If he'd done a national TV show, I think he would have been successful because he was just a skilled performer. I mean, you know what it's like to connect with an audience. You know, you have to think about who your audience is and what they want to hear and sort of package yourself.
Hold on, slow down. Let me write these down. What do you do again?
Oh, yeah. Well,
what's the first thing you have to do?
In our next therapy session, you come sit down. We'll spend 90 minutes next time.
All right,
time.
well, let me just, in the remaining minutes, what's one of your favorite clips? We'll play it for you here on the air.
Oh, it's hard to pick any clip with JP and Gertrude where it's just Chris Wheatus and Bob Newman. Just, they showed up for work that morning. They had no idea what they were going to do. There's no script. There's no showrunner deciding which part of the plot is going to happen today. I mean, all that children's television workshop stuff was just nowhere near what was going on at Cairo back when JP and Gertrude were on the air. So,
and I listen. I think it was the lightning in the bottle when you do stuff live, and when anything can happen, and if you have people that know how to perform, you just let it go. And I'm sure some days it didn't work, but most of the time it did work, and at least people appreciated the fact that it was organic and it was real.
But there's more to it than that. I mean, because again, every city had this same kind of thing that in no other city. And I've researched this. I've talked to other people. Nowhere else did the stars of the show kind of continue to ascend after the show went off the air and create this you can feel the heartache in Seattle today. Almost everybody's brokenhearted about the fact that JP's gone.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, again, and nowhere else is it like that. We need to realize all these big Seattle things that are popular around the world, like Starbucks and Boeing and Microsoft.
Yeah.
JP didn't translate beyond here. So beyond the range of the Cairo TV transmitter, that's where JP's understood and loved. You go outside the area, no one knows what you're talking about. I think that's kind of special.
Yeah. Wow, Felix, that's an interesting spin on it. Well, thanks. We appreciate your time.
Hey, anytime.
Sorry about the loss of your friend.
Thanks, John. I appreciate it.
Okay. We'll leave you with a little bit of Gertrude and J.P. Patches. Take a quick break. More of the John Curley Show. We come right back. Bob Costas is going to do something that could get him a lot of trouble on July 27th when the Olympics begin. We'll tell you what it is. We come right back.
Before we do anything, do you have any questions or do you have any answers? Yes, you have a question.
What's the JP stand for?
Jump pile. Or, Julius Pierpont. Julius Pierpont. Okay, that's a question. Another question? Yes.
What's your passport get on the last page on your internet?
Zaba.
Zaba.
Yeah,
Okay, now where does Zaba come from?
Zaba. Of course, the friendly.
Everybody now, let's sing. Zaba, 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 Zoo. Secret room, Alakazoo.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
You